Welcome back to another episode of the Skits and Giggles podcast. My name is Pascal, and I'm joined by my co-host Bryson. How is it going tonight, buddy?
Hola, Pascal. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good, very good. We are also joined by Luke Fitzpatrick. How is it going tonight?
Good, guys. Nice to meet you, and very excited to be
here. Well, we're really looking forward to this, but I guess before we get going with anything else, I guess we need to lay out a little bit of a context, a bit of background. So why don't you tell us, what kind of mountain biker are you?
Well, I'm if you look at me, I'm just an old fat biker, basically. But if it goes up the hill, if there's not a lift around it, I've got to push it in a turbo. But besides that, I don't know, I just ride whatever's here, ride a lot of park, living here in Lenzerheide, obviously. When I can, get out on the trails, I just love biking, riding the big long travel enduro bikes or a downhill bike. Yeah, what kind of biker am I? I don't know. I just ride bikes.
I think that's good enough. So just a mountain biker, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Very nice. Well, why are we talking today? There's two main things I want to talk to you about and want to hear your perspective on. I guess the one that you've been in the news about, recently has been the privateer lounge at the recent Lenzerheide World Cup. And I really, really thought this was a cool idea, and I want to hear more about it. So can you give us the rundown? What was the idea, and what did you want to achieve?
Yeah, the idea was just to do something fun. With the whole, new owners of the series and things like that, it's become super expensive from what I'm hearing. And then I thought, well, I'm in a situation to give a little bit back. And then that's why the idea from the Privateers Lounge, it came up. It was like, all right, well, what do I do? The test centre, Trek Test Centre is in the perfect location, right at the end of the bike park. I know some of the biggest teams in the world are going to be at the front door. And then when I thought about a privateer thing, I was like, yeah, this could be fun. This could be really cool.
And so basically you have the shop that's right at the bottom of the gondola in Lenzerheide. And so what kind of, so if you say privateer lounge, okay, cool. That sounds to me music, drinks, having a good time, enjoying a nice day in the sun, watching the racing. But that's not exactly what you had in mind with this, right?
No, that's not there was an idea just to, create a place where, the privateers could hang out. I had a picture of, it's raining outside, privateers there in the car park, which is, over the other side of the valley, underneath the boot of his car trying to fix his bike or her bike. And I thought, hey, that would be, imagine if all that was in here. Give them a place to leave a bag, to leave a set of wheels or whatever, come in here, check their bike, tighten up a screw, fix a flat tire or whatever it was. And it just kind of developed into this I don't know, it just became a bigger thing than what I planned, It was at first, well, I guess you go back to where the idea actually came from. An Australian rider called Ellie Smith. I know her through our Darko connection. And then I met her at the World Champs last year, and I said, look, if you're still a privateer when you come to Lenzerheide next year, I said, you're staying at my house, with my family. And then, I've got, a workshop that you can use and things like that. And then the idea just kind of, gets going in your head and it just snowballs. And then I messaged her months ago. I said, hey, what do you think if we expand this and we offer it to all the privateers? And she's like, yeah, go for it. I said, good, let's spread out the word. And obviously I hit, Trek up, test a Trek. And I was like, put the word out that this is what we're doing, that there's going to be support. Got other brands involved, and we kind of just, it sort of funnel webbed its way out. And then, there was it's kind of cool to think about it again.
I guess we want to come back to this later, I guess, but it's a very interesting juncture for the sport at the minute, I guess, to be focusing on privateers, and I guess for the, let's say, more casual listener, I guess we need to lay out a little bit what a privateer actually is in the context of Downhill World Cup. So
yeah,
Bryson, maybe do you want to lay out for us what a privateer is?
Whoa, okay. To my knowledge, limited knowledge, privateer is somebody who does not have official sponsorship. So they can have some sponsorship, maybe, for example, clothing, gloves, goggles, things like that. Maybe they belong to a sports club, and then that sports club gave them the money to travel to Switzerland and pay for a place to stay, pay for the flight, maybe something like that. But in large part, they pay their own way. Either they have a job, they're like you and me, and they just want to go racing, and they're making it happen on their own buck.
Guess that's a pretty good summary. What would you say, Luke?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's someone that doesn't have factory support. Someone that's is doing it on their own, living in their van. Scraping fuel together to get to the next race. I guess living the life, or living the dream. I say, because that's, we all wanted to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of some of the romance, the good golden days of downhill and many other racing disciplines, of course. The romance of, I'm just going to show up with my bike and my stuff, and I'm going to, on this one magical day, I'm going to win something, and everything's going to be taken care of afterwards.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe to contrast, again, for someone that doesn't quite follow the Downhill World Cup so closely, factory racers, so the top teams in the sport, when they rock up similar to other premier motorsports, for example, with their trucks. They have physios, they have chefs, they have mechanics, they have all the spares, they have all the things you need for a successful racing weekend. And I guess a privateer would just show up with a bike and his duffel bag with all his kit and stuff that he needs for the weekend, and kind of flies by the seat of his pants or her pants.
Yeah, that was the contrast that I saw right here. I had right in front of the shop was the Commensar Markov team, with Marie there before he obviously got injured. Trek Factory Racing was 10 meters away, and then Specialized was right there as well. And so you had three of the biggest teams in the world right here, and then you get a privateer walk in, and he's just got like a multi-tool. He's turning up, and we had a look at some of these bikes, and my mechanics, they did an amazing job. They grabbed some of these bikes from these guys and we're just like, go away, come back in 2 hours. And that wasn't the idea of the thing. Was they were meant to like work on the bikes themselves, and we'll go into sponsorship for oils and stuff that we had. But in the end, I've got some top mechanics working for me, and they took over these people's bikes. And I think we did something like 30 bikes in the first 2 days, like came in and we helped.
Oh, wow.
I'd say 6, maybe 10 of those were like big services, and the guys had just come and were like, good, go. The qualifying's at 2 or whatever. Come get your bike. It just turned in like, come, let's get these bikes out, get them running as smooth as we can, with the parts that we had, and just be like, yeah, let's go, guys. That was, and but you said go back on the contrast. It was crazy. These people are coming in and just, the wheels are so bent, and they got no money to buy new wheels. And you look at the team across here, and there's just changing tires every second run and stuff like that.
Exactly, a whole gallery of spares and training wheels and race wheels and wet
Oh,
wheels and dry wheels and this wheels and that wheels.
spare frames, everything. It's just nuts.
But yeah, I guess also the changes that were made for this year, they obviously haven't made it any easier um, for privateers or people on a smaller budget. So again, maybe laying that out for someone that's not following so closely. Until this year, downhill was basically a qualification run and then some kind of a final, typically 60 or 80 of the fastest riders from qualifying, and then the fastest man or woman on the day, on Sunday or Saturday, whenever the final was, won the day. And for this year, they introduced so-called semifinals. So you have um, 60 that qualify for a semifinal, and then another 30 that go through to the final. And those two runs are pretty closely stacked. And I guess that also makes it much more complicated for a privateer that doesn't quite have as much support. We do have some insights from, let's say, a smaller budget team as well, how
Yeah.
complicated that can be. So how was your perspective on this whole new dynamic with the semifinal?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a second, Pascal, what was that sound?
I started using that sound whenever we wanted to say something about our social, or where you guys can find more information about the Skits and Giggles podcast. We are currently most active on our Instagram, where you can skid right into our DMs and follow along at Skits and Giggles, and you can find our website with all the relevant links and info under the URL skitsandgiggles.com. Also, if you guys like what we're doing and want to know what's up, just give us a follow on Spotify, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to great podcasts. Finally, sharing episodes you enjoy on your socials or a heartfelt 5-star rating on your favorite platform goes a long way in helping us reach more cool people like you. Right on, with all of that out of the way, let's get back to the show.
I actually liked it. I thought in that regards it was cool. It created a lot more racing. You know, a lot more action, a lot more drama. I guess you can even add into the mix. What I did see from having privateers, it just wasn't one in the end that stayed at my house. Is that their stress went up, because they didn't have the time or they didn't to fix something on a bike or tune a gear or something like that. It just was all very back to back for them. And where being on the bigger teams really helps out. You give your bike away, to the mechanic, and you can go and lie down. You can think about things, and then your bike's ready. Or your clothes been washed, or your helmet's clean, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But that having that support takes the stress out, and the rider, the athlete, can focus on what they need to do. We actually had that happen, where I guess it's a perfect example of what could have or what did happen and can happen. When the privateers have a bit of support. There's a cross country racer from Australia called Zoe Cuthbert, and she's full privateer. She's got good support back in Oz, and in the end, it came out that Ellie Smith, who stayed with us, she's like, hey, there's another Aussie girl cross country racer. She's living in a van, and it turned out we're from the same area in Oz. I said, no, she's staying at our house. And then before the short course, my mechanic grabbed her bike, and he said, "Oh, is this your practice bike?" I said, "No, that's my race bike." And he's just like, "Oh, okay. Look, just leave it here. I'll clean it, make sure the gears are running. Go home, focus on the race, and come back in 2 or 3 hours." And 2 mechanics jumped on the bike and rebuilt the thing. We didn't sell her, and she got in the short course, started pedaling, and all of a sudden she told me, she's like, "Oh my God, my bike's rad." And then she went, "I'm racing." And then I don't want to say wrong, I think she was 4th or 5th or 6th or something in short course, which was her best result ever. And then she thanked us and she's like, my God, I could really focus on what was going on. I said, God, this is your routine now. Train, give the bike in, the mechanics will get it ready for you. And we did the same before the long track, or the XCO, I think it's called. And then, we talked about then her strategy and things like that. I know nothing. I'm an idiot when it comes to a lot of this stuff. But she got 5th in the long course, which again was her massive result. And she said it was part because of the support she had, and she could, use that to focus on the riding and the race and the track, and not worry about washing her clothes or washing a bike and getting it. And, you don't think that makes a big difference, but to be absolutely honest, it's that 1% or 2% maybe that an athlete needs. And it was really, really cool to see that and, give that support. I get goosebumps thinking about it. But when she crossed the finish line, everyone that was involved, including the mechanics, I rang the mechanics up and said, close the shops, get out here and watch this. There's something school's going to happen. And she crossed the line and we're all in tears. It was just one of those perfect stories, to come out of this situation.
Well, sometimes that's all it takes, right? So to give people that little bit of support, that that extra little bit of self-confidence, or wow, someone else is believing in me, someone else is helping me, and then that elevates them to completely new level, or actually to their true level in terms of sporting performance. And then through that simple in air quotes process, opens up new opportunities, because all of a sudden they get on the radar of someone that can give them that support on a more structural level. And
absolutely, and
really, really cool.
As you said, it absolutely proves that these athletes that are all competing at that level, the margin to reach their full potential is so small, and it can be just a fact of not having to wash their bike at the end, or not having to get it ready. That's enough for them to focus on their job.
Yeah, or just have a proper night's sleep, rather than sleeping on the floor of your van, and sleeping in a proper bed, and having a nice home cooked meal, rather than whatever microwaved ramens or whatever it is, right? So we've all been young and had to slum it at some stage. So if things must go, then that's how they go.
Yeah, I remember when the communication came out that they were going to change the World Cup format a bit. Speaking specifically about downhill, the conversation immediately went to how much more difficult this format would be to adapt to for privateers. And in the perfect example you just gave, when people have this support, they find their optimal performance. But if I could play devil's advocate, there's also something to be said for, and I'm not taking away from what you did, because I think it's amazing, and I hope it sets the bar, like the benchmark for what's going on behind the scenes in different places. But there is something to be said for the individual, and maybe I'm not talking about the rider now, but the individual who's able to work at trying to balance all those different facets of being a privateer, because it is also bringing like a kind of a roundedness to like their skill set overall as a person. And so mountain biking, we meet a lot of really cool people, a lot of really nice people, a lot of shredders, and a lot of them had to start out just like that, really burning the candle at both ends. And now they are some of the most popular World Cup racers at the moment, like Bernard Kerr. I bet you're going to see a few more of these faces in your shop year after year after year, and they're going to be on factory teams.
Yeah, you're 120% correct. It's character building in the end, and they, at the start and things like that, these riders should get out there and live in the van and eat ramen and race on an old tire and things like that. You know, the people that have the rise have factory support, you know, they earn that support. And don't get me wrong, it's not like, you know, otherwise they're not going to be there. But that's super important. You know, pay your dues. You know, and when that support comes along, they're going to appreciate it so much more. And I was talking to, you know, the guys from Trek and Trek Future Racing, and they see the privateers, you know, the privateers and things, and you know, riders up and coming that are on radars for these big teams. The teams, they see them a couple of years before, and they watch what they're doing. And you know, in Zoe's example, the people know that she's in a van, that she's doing this stuff, and you know, she struggles from time to time, and you know, and it's for them. It's also because then when she does get the support, she's just going to appreciate it, you know. And any rider like that, I think if they come through the super junior ranks, you know, it's a 10-year-old and they're sponsored already, and then 15, 16-year-old, you know, 20-year-old World Cup level, and they've just been given everything, you know, when they're up on the big stages or in the big pits and things like that, they just go, oh, this is just normal, you know. They should appreciate everything they get.
Absolutely. Also, but there's also the flip side to that argument, right? It's obviously, you know, that's slightly off the topic of the privateer lounge, but you know, this is also about, you know, diversity and inclusion, if you will, right? Because this is predominantly a European sport. It's pretty easy for someone from Europe, so let's say Central Europe, like, you know, Germany, Switzerland, France, Italy, to get to a World Cup and to get into racing, even as a privateer, right? You can drive everywhere with a car. There's not much cost involved in terms of travel and stuff. But, you know, for someone from Australia, from New Zealand, from South America, you know, different places from overseas, this is a huge expense just to get to a race. And then if you need to get to the race and make an impression, and you don't have the support, and you need to pay your dues, you're just massively stacking the deck against everyone that's not from Europe, basically.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, you know, if the people can come here and then having that local support, sometimes that is exactly that little bit that's required to give them that opportunity, right? Or just tilt the deck slightly back in a more egalitarian way, right? Because if we just wanted the European Cup, then, you know, there's a way to do it.
Yeah, and going on that, from coming from Australia, New Zealand, once the word spread that, you know, that this was happening, and there's you know, an Aussie behind it, all of a sudden the families from junior races from Oz and New Zealand all started coming in. And, you know, talking to these parents, they're like, yeah, they've, you know, taken 4 or 5 months off their unpaid leave, you know, flown, you know, most just a dad and a kid, or they got a bit of a group together and formed their own little sort of team to stick together and share costs. And they were all just like, man, this is like one shot. We can't afford this. And, you know, to help these kids out and things like that, work on the bikes, and, you know, so it doesn't matter. Just give them 20 meters of rim tape. You know, like, there you go, just take it. It's fine. And I got a lot of the parents come in, you know, after everything was done, you know, even if the kid didn't qualify. You know, they came in and said thanks. You know, and I just said, look, the money you saved in here, I said, use it to get to Leo game. You know, use it to get to the next race. You know, use it to buy a tire when you get to Austria. You know, things like that. And that was really cool to see. You know, see the young kids and the parents, and having to chat to the parents, and, you know, yeah, I know I couldn't afford to bring my kids over from Australia to race a World Cup season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's enormous expense.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it costs. You know, we had one of the Aussie groups. I think it was 3 parents and 6 or 7 kids and things like that. One night I said, "Oh, what are you guys doing for dinner?" "Oh, we're having pasta." So now you're coming around my house for a barbecue. My wife accepted this. We had a bit of an Aussie barbecue. At my
Barbie.
having Barbie, yeah, which was pretty cool.
Speaking of down under and people from further overseas, I mean, there is another very famous privateer supporter, Win Masters.
Yeah.
Did you ever exchange any notes on supporting privateers with him, or did you just do this completely on your own?
I did it completely on my own. To be honest, I didn't know he was doing any privateer concept. And then through a few of the brands that I know and people, I said, if you see Win, can you tell him to come in here and have a chat to him? I just thought we could use his platform, to help grow this concept or the idea. Unfortunately, crashed and ended up a bit hurt. But I messaged him on Instagram as well. I said, "Hey, come past. I want to have a chat. Let's take this privateers concept to the next race." I wanted to grow and just put pressure on anyone in Leogang in the next race. Any shop to put their hand up and say, "All right, I'm going." And then it would have gone to the next and things like that. I was like, "Hey, if we could get this over the whole series, that'd be so much fun." And but yeah, unfortunately, turn of events, he ended up hurting himself. But so that never happened. But I think what he's doing is awesome. Raising money, giving tires, just helping these guys out, guys and girls.
Yeah, I mean, this year it's even bigger, right? So they get like full-time mechanic, they get a bike, they get
the next race, yeah,
proper support. That's really, really cool. I mean, I guess what are some of the highlights from those couple of days in terms of gnarly defects, trashed wheels, broken bikes? Any fun war stories?
Fun war stories, like finding a shock bolt for a bike you haven't seen before. The kids coming in, you're looking at their bike. I'm like, oh my God. I just feel like giving them one of my sessions and say, "Look, just go race on that, please. Just put this one in the corner and, we'll sell it for scrap metal." This one guy came in. Oh, I just can't think of his name right now. He's well known in the Aussie rounds. He's just a loose cat, lights up a room when he walks in. And then I looked at his fork. I'm like, "Hey, does that fork work?" He goes, "Oh, it goes down a bit." And I said, give me a fork. And I think we had half an hour before he had to go for his quali run. So there's no time to pull it out and fix it. And through one of the supporters, if I don't mind plugging him, because they helped immensely with Garmok's distribution in Switzerland, with the RSP material, they gave me oils, sprays, lubes, everything, and they gave it to the Privateers Lounge. They came on board big time. So those guys, my hat's off. I've said to them personally, thank you. And I gave away the stuff they gave me. I gave away like it was candy, And going back onto this fork, there's a thing called Hyper Wipe from them, and it's just a lubricant. Just a sort of, we call it, if you don't mind my French, we call it race shit in my team. We get the race shit on before the race, and I put some on this fork and lubed up everything, and it's like, oh my God! I said, all right, every run you come back in because it's not going to last. And he did it. He'd do a quali run or a practice run. He'd come back. I'd lube his fork back out, send him back out. And we did this for I don't know, it might have been a day or 2 days or something. It was so much fun. That I don't think I'll ever forget that. That was definitely a highlight. Just meeting people, it's definitely a bonus from what happened. Meeting new people, from abroad and things like that. Having a chat. We got everyone to sign in. Their name, where the country they're from, Instagram, email, and things like that. And it was just really cool. Or another guy, cross country, I think he was elite. He was in training. Cross country guy came in, and in the training, he lost. Obviously had air in his brakes, and he lost pressure in his brake. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm really sorry. Can you guys help me out? I'm in training." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." We threw his thing out. My mechanic bled his brakes. Did it within. It probably took 5 minutes. We put him back on the bike and sent him off. And he came back in later to say thanks. I think he posted on Instagram. He's like, "Hey, mid-training session, Blake breed, and all that sort of stuff." He goes, "Yeah, you don't get that, And he's epic shot, privateer lounge, and things like that. And that was really cool. Come in, had a little bit of pit stop, and went back out training.
Very cool.
So if we had to throw it together, a little package for the next round of the World Cup Circus, some other shop is aspiring to be a privateer lounge. What's a little kit that you can put together, like you just in words, let's say? They need to have some lubricant. They need to have what else? And they can set up their own little privateer lounge, their own way, of course.
In their own way. You need oils, you need lubricants, you need all that sort of stuff, because that just goes a long way. Tires. Find someone to give you a bunch of tires. Couple of handlebars on the side aren't too bad either. Yeah, lubricants, tires, things like that. Just anything you'd normally need to replace on a normal weekend, with the boys. Just have it, and then just don't hold on to it. Just give it away.
So I think a big message would be for those people who are aspiring. You would be best served to look for someone to have this like kind of a donation sense, because you really need to pool from the community to provide service to the community. Yeah. It's not just about like being a standalone shop and then going through all your stock and being left empty without any money in reimbursement. It's everyone can pool in to help everyone else. It's like instead of a self-help book, it's a help others book.
It is. Everyone should support this. I asked, I'm not going to name any brands and stuff, but I asked for tires and I asked for certain things, and there was, a very quick sorry. No, sorry. And after the fact, there's a few of the bigger brands that are like, "Oh, well, we want to be involved."
There you go.
And you're like, all right, so it's on the radar. It's a cool thing. But yeah, a lot of it should be donated by these brands. I think some of the best were, obviously Fox, RockShox, DT Swiss. But they didn't support my lounge directly. People riding, DT Swiss wheels, for example, would come in and say, "Hey, can you straighten it?" Or "This isn't working," or, and we'd be like, "Hey, go to DT Swiss." And it's just one or two times it happened. I said, go to them and say, "Hey, look, I'm a privateer. I've bent my rim. Can you guys straighten it for me?" And every time that happened, the privateer came back with a new rim. They just built a new wheel.
Bingo.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, I know that RockShox and Fox helped a bunch of people out, obviously when they had time. So come on, leave your fork here, I'll do a quick service and things like that. Obviously we didn't have time to do it all. Obviously, these bigger companies that support the factory teams and stuff like that, there is some sort of priority involved. But I think, there's also room to help the little guy. you know. I can imagine these guys that got helped out by DT Swiss, what wheel set are they going to buy next? They're going to buy DT Swiss, aren't they? Because they got helped out, you know. But yeah, if someone's looking, a bike shop wants to do this at a next race or wherever, yeah, just try and get some of these companies involved, you know. And they can use it for marketing, you know. Everyone likes a good wheel story, you know.
Well, also, I mean, it's you know, by the sounds of it, right? It's like the little things that most of the teams have plenty of spares, and you know, you do hear from riders in certain teams that you know they like to change tires every every 2 runs or whatever, right? So those tires could easily be donated to something like a privateer lounge, and I'm sure there's plenty of life out of those tires. I mean,
it's like a new
you don't even need to go to a World Cup to see that, right? So I mean, I really think back to Transmadeira, right? So there's people packing up their bikes to fly back home overseas, and some of them, they were like, well, I've been riding those tires for for a week, and they look pretty short. And yes, some of those guys were sponsored, but they just gave them away to the local kids. And you know, they're gonna keep riding the crap out of those tires for at least another year or so. And you know, and then it's the same with those things.
Yeah,
I mean, even at a World Cup level. But yeah, no, it's I really love the idea. I love the idea of community and providing that platform where people can come together and help each other out. And I think it's a really, really cool story. And I hope we see it again in the future. I guess next year Lenzerheide is still up in the air, but if Lenzerheide ever comes back to be on the World Cup calendar, will you do it again? I'm confident you say, hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'd do it again.
Can I hear a hell yeah?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I had the
Nice.
because I didn't get to present it correctly. There was one thing missing, and everything was delivered, but my red carpet turned up late. I actually had a red carpet ordered, measured out to go between Commensal, Markov, and Specialized, leading to
that's rich.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it was the cheapest red carpet I could find on the internet. You know, and that was the idea. It was to be like, well, if you're going to do a privateer's lounge, why not roll out a red carpet?
Exactly.
And velvet ropes for next year or the following.
Yeah, when it comes back, there'll definitely be a red carpet.
We did talk about community and the World Cup, but there's obviously quite a bit more that you do for the community, and that's, I guess, the second part I want to talk about today, and that's your involvement with the Lenzerheide downhill kids and the Epic Junior Racing Team. And what can you tell us all about that? I mean, I love these developments with kids getting into racing and having help from the community. We've just been to Swiss Enduro Series Leukerbad, where like the bike club Mottotal was rocking up with their U15 team with a bunch of coaches,
Awesome.
Riding around with, I think, 10 odd kids around the entire race. So I love these kind of stories. So what can you tell me about the Lenzerheide downhill kids?
I first did Lenzerheide downhill kids 12, 13 years ago. You know, just as a Saturday summer thing, and we had like 10 kids sign up, and we basically just did it for free, and it was just do something fun. Then that was way before the bike park was here and all this sort of stuff. And then, setting up the bike school 5-6 years ago, whatever it was. Then I was like, all right, let's get this up and running. And then we started first of all was our Wednesday club, as we call it. You know, kids are around here Wednesday afternoon off. Switzerland, obviously.
It is Switzerland.
Yeah, it is Switzerland. It's very cool. And then we just started, and then we have, 35, 36 kids from the region every Wednesday afternoon. This year we have 8 coaches. Some of them are so free riders and things like this. Other have got level, almost World Cup level racing experience. And some of these kids drive up to an hour to get here every Wednesday afternoon, which is very, very cool. And then that obviously leads into your, the summer holiday program, as we call it. And Lenzerheide's full in the next 6 weeks. And then we have a similar sort of thing. We take kids into the park, show them how to use the park safely, teach them to jump, ride corners, drops, all that sort of thing you'd expect from that sort of course. But for me, the funnest bit about that is when you get the little ones, the young kids, and it's their first time, and I can literally just ride the fire road down from Middle Station for 5 days with these kids and love it. And for them, it's oh my God, I'm going downhill. All you see is 2 legs and a helmet, basically. And that's that's Lenzerheide downhill kids. It's I think slowly other places are doing it as well, but we kind of started it, and Swiss Cycling contacted me a while back, a couple of years back, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to ride park with kids, and it's fun. And then from that, it led into the Bike Kingdom Kids Cup, that race series that's around.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are aware of it, or maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I know it's a 3 race series.
It's been around for a bit now, so it's.
That's something. I'm not involved with it anymore, but I was there at the start. That whole race, the first race was just a 1-day event. And we thought, let's just try something for kids. My 7-year-old wanted to race then. And so we said, let's just try this. And I think we had 60 kids turn up. And then Lenzerheide marketing support went, oh. On the lift company went, oh. And I went, oh. And then we got together, with a few other people, obviously. And the Kids Cup concept came out of it. And then I think the first year I was race director. And then I'm going with something like 500 kids through the series.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty huge. And then I believe last year, I think the numbers are around 700. I don't know the numbers anymore because I'm not, not at the meetings or anything. But I know last Sunday was the first race in Brambush in Core, and I saw number plate 236. So, yeah, that's awesome. The interest in kids racing and, bike parks or entry-level races for kids is huge in this part of Europe.
Absolutely, because it's also, the path to downhill is pretty muddled, right? So no one really knows clearly what is the path. I mean, there's some local races. There's like the IXS Cup. There's in the Hot Trail series. There's all these kind of things, but no one really knows anymore how these all fit together and from what age. And there's no clear path, right? So in cross country, over the last 30, 40 years, you've had these development programs or development series that brought you from 7-year-old all the way to, elite if you ever wanted. But in downhill, there's just no such thing. And I guess, things like the Kids Cup and all these kind of things, they can play an important role to fill that gap. And I guess that's why Swiss Cycling was giving you a call.
Yeah, I think it might have been because of that, or I forgot to pay my dues. I'm not quite sure.
Exactly. Did you just punch a membership?
Yeah,
that's
your
fees.
Yeah.
UCI number, please.
That's it. No, that's all up to date. You're okay. Exactly. No, that's the way where that first race came along, where my youngest wanted to do the race, and I couldn't find anything for that age group. The Rookies Cup in Cephalus was probably the nearest, but you had to be 13. I'm like, oh, okay. So my son rides the track that they ride there, but he's too young. And then obviously developed, and the concept was just give kids from the age of 6 a chance to race, give them the feeling of a race, the number plate, the professional timing, but put it in at an entry level, and keep it on the safe side, obviously because, mums all stand around and watch this. And that's the way it's kept. It's the idea is to get all the kids to the bottom, safe and happy, and have a little bit of a race on the side. Then, so watch that develop is pretty cool. And I've noticed this year that Valiant Cup is combined with the Hot Trail Series, and so at the Hot Trail races where it's possible, they also have a Kids Cup style race. It's a shorter, easier track. It's generally down the grass or a little bit of a track and things like that, and that's going really cool as well. Like they got a lot of kids signing up just to do that.
Is an important step, right? So it's typically that's how you get people to races, right, and to stick around races, right? Because no one wants to go to a race for like a 1 minute run and then cheer on for a little bit and then go home. And worst case, they have to drive halfway around the country to get to that. So if you can make like afternoon racing for the adults, and then for the dads and the moms, and then the kids can have their thing at lunchtime or in the morning. And so if you get, that's why I think these festival type events are so successful, right? When you have like all these different styles of racing, and racing in air quotes, right? Because for some classes it can mean just a little obstacle course, for others it's maybe pump track, for something else it's a small downhill, or already kind of a little enduro thing. That's how you get people excited, and like give kids. I mean, I see it with my own kids, right? Give them a number plate, give them a medal, give them a couple snacks, and they're stoked about bikes, and that's all you need, right? So, and that's what brings them back. And
yeah,
and the ideal scenario, they can see their idols in the same spot, right? So then they hang around for their thing in the morning, and then they've done the same event like their big star, or and then that brings them back and keeps them in the sport.
Yeah, I saw on the first Kids Cup last week. There's a girl who's just joined my Kids Cup team, and it was her first race, and she came down and she was in first place, and the timing and scorings, running and things like this, and she was so excited. She's like, am I in first? I said, yeah, you're in first, but there's a few more riders coming down. Don't worry. And I think she finished 6th in the end or something like that. And she was so stoked, And I was just like, that's the reason these kids' races exist, and should be more of them, Because then you get someone who started off at that young age and has that experience, that positive experience at a race or whatever it is. They're going to get stoked on biking anyway. And then it can lead to them, going through the ranks, through the age groups, moving up to the bigger races, and then you will see some of these kids from these Kids Cup events going, standing in front of the shop in a few years' time in the factory teams. It will happen.
Knocking on your door, bringing you a beer.
Yeah, that's
saying,
it.
do you remember?
Giving me them the practice tires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. Closing the circle.
That's it. And that's where the Epic Junior Racing came about. There's not a lot of support for, for up and coming riders in Switzerland. I'd say next to none. And then I think I think we can all agree on this, is, like a 10-year gap in Switzerland, and it's going to take another, 10 years to fill it, until, Swiss is a dominant force on the scene again. The Frenchies have done very well. They kept pushing it. That's why all they're riding so well. And then, so, I got together with a few fathers, and all the kids on the team, well, half of them came from the downhill kids program. And we're like, they did really well in the Kids Cup the last couple of years. I'm like, well, let's see what we can do. And then, so I got together with a few brands, presented the idea. Obviously, Trek being, the bigger one. I said, look, we need to give these kids support, take financial pressure off the parents, so that they can, spend that money getting to the race or buying a spare wheel, or having all the support that the kids need. And then so we came up with that as 11 kids on the team at the moment, and then we go to the hot trail races together. I take all the spare parts. I take as good a workshop as I can, put in a bus, and the parents don't have to outlay money on extra brake levers or tires and things like that, because it costs me nothing to take it there. So if someone blows up a back wheel, I've got it there, and then obviously got a pretty good deal with me, these kids, and I just fix it. If no one blows a back wheel, then I just take it back to the shop. And it's so much fun. I've got a really, really good bunch of kids. The results speak for themselves. I'd say that's my second proudest thing, is the results. But the way the team sticks together at a race, they're a team. And I think that's something that's so important. One of the kids asked me, "Oh, are we going to have our names on the back of our shirts?" I said, "No, we're not." I said, "We're a team. We're not individual riders." And they didn't get it. Some of the parents got it. You come through you work as a team, you do things as a team, you learn together, and some of the quicker riders take the less experienced riders and show them lines and all that sort of stuff. That's pretty cool to watch.
Wow. Really sounds really, really cool. And I'd love to see that one day.
It's fun. Just turn up at any Kids Cup race, and as I said, the results, stick for themselves. Obviously the individual riders, fastest time of the day last weekend, the Brambush race for under 17s, went 1, 2, 3 under 15s, and things like that. And that's also very proud. It's very cool to see that. But the way the rest of the riders are cheering, for their teammates, when they get up on the podium and stuff like that, that's the way it should be. Mountain biking, racing, it is an individual sport, I guess. But you can also make a team situation out of it.
Yeah, well, a team or a community in the wider sense, right? So I mean, that's I guess certainly in the more gravity-oriented disciplines, that's certainly something that is a bit universal, right? So that element that you're not racing each other out on the race course, you're it's a time trial at the end, right? So even in an enduro, it's you start the stage on your own, you hopefully finish on your own. Downhill, you finish, you're alone on the track. There's no one else, and you're not really racing someone else. You're just racing yourself and the clock, and then that means there's nothing that can be standing in the way of your performance apart from yourself. And therefore you can be stoked for someone else, and that's really something universal.
Yeah, that's the way. Hopefully, hopefully it stays, that way. But no, very, yeah, very happy to it's a part of it. See what happens, see what develops with that side of what's going on. We're talking to some of the kids and the parents as well. Where do we go? What do we do next? Even though we're only half the series in, we're already thinking, all right, how do we get to European Cups? And things like that. There's a few ideas floating around. Yeah, we think we can. And there's also a few other little, teams and groups of juniors popping up now. And I think, with that going on and Kids Cup and hot trails and things like this, it's the next 10 years, it's going to be hopefully an interesting time for downhilling in Switzerland.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I feel a bit same as an Aussie saying that, having a bit of a goal for downhilling in the country. But yeah, it's a nice place to live. I'll be here a while.
Well, Luke, is there anything you wanted to say that you haven't said so far?
No, I don't think so. I think we're covered all the points we want to have a chat about. Yeah. All I can say is I put the challenge out there to any other shops and to try and do it, like do a privateers lounge. Speak to your local suppliers. Push it. Use your connections. Abuse your connections. I think you can once a year. Say, look, this is what I want to do, and do it. So yeah, I think we've set the bar. Now it's time for everyone to run with it.
All right, that's a really cool message to end on. If our listeners have any more questions about you, the Privateer Lounge, your shop, the Epic Junior Racing Team, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can at Epic Shop on Instagram, Epic minus Lenzerheide, web address. Just if you Google Epic Lenzerheide, you'll find me somehow, or just swing past the Trek Test Centre here at the Revere Hotel in the bottom of Rotorn and come say hi. Might have a free tyre floating around. Who knows?
Some leftovers from the World Cup.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, we'll put all of those infos into the show notes as well, so people can find it there. And with that, we thank you very much. This is really, really cool and really interesting. And yeah, hopefully to see you in person soon.
Yeah, we'll see you up here, and we'll go and hit the trails.
Thanks for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode.
Pascal and I put a lot of heart and soul into this podcast, and it means a lot to us that you've listened to it. We'd also really appreciate if you shared it with the people that you know and care about. Until next time, Skigglers.